Thank you, Professor Ko and Vanessa, for that. Actually, that last question brings us very nicely into our next panel discussion. Before I introduce our speakers and our moderator, I would just like to let you all know there will be Q&A for panel discussions. So if you have any thought-provoking questions, please hold on to them. The moderator will call you to come forward to their microphones that side and that side. Just please state your name and then your question, and then we do ask that you keep to one question per person so that others will have a chance to ask them. Now, it's no coincidence that the theme for this year's summit is the future of PR. It's an existential question for some of us, but luckily we have a couple of great minds to help us answer that question of what the role of PR leaders is today. Please join me in welcoming Arun Mahinan, Special Research Advisor at the Institute of Policy Studies, and Jacob Puthupparambil, founder and CEO of Red Hill, as well as our moderator, Kathy O'Brien, Managing Director of Red Shoe Communications.
Good morning, everyone. I know many of you, but for those I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, I'm Kathy O'Brien. I'm Managing Director of Red Shoe Communications. We coach executives in their comm skills. And a 26-year member of the IPRS, by the way. Thank you, Prof. Ko. Okay, this is even better. So, as our honorable guest already said in our keynote discussion, the V word is here to stay. Volatility is here amidst us, as you mentioned, with war, inflation, rising interest rates, post-COVID situations, supply chain challenges, and of course the executives in this room are dealing with these things every day. So, what is the role of PR leaders in our world today? Well, to offer some thoughts on this topic, in addition to Prof. Ko, I have the pleasure to introduce two other big thinkers for the big topic. Beginning with the panelists beside Prof. Ko, we have a professional who has spent 50 years in communications. Needless to say, I can't tell you everything. But at one time, he headed the Singapore office of Hill and Knowlton, Singapore and Malaysia office of Hill and Knowlton. He's also been an adjunct professor at the Wee Kim Wee School at NTU. He's conducted research at the IPS together with Prof. Ko, where he was deputy director under Prof. Ko. He was first made a fellow of the IPRS and was then given the Lifetime Achievement Award when, as he likes to say, he retreated from PR to academia. He's currently the chief executive of the Center for Singapore Tamil Culture, an NGO devoted to intercultural communication. So please join me in welcoming Arun Mahinan. And next to Arun is a communications expert, opinion leader, author, serial entrepreneur, and business leader with more than 2 decades of global experience. He oversees a team of more than 150 talents across all of Asia, Middle East, and the US as founder and CEO of Red Hill. He's a source of local pride because Red Hill is headquartered in Singapore and has been recognized on far too many awards to list here. But I will mention one, Regional Network of the Year at Public Affairs Asia's Gold Standard Awards this year. So prior to founding Red Hill, he held senior roles at agencies like Burson Marsteller and also worked in technology and business media. He's very active in industry organizations, IPRS as we know, and also the Milken Institute's Young Leaders Circle. So please give a warm welcome to Jacob Puthenparambil. So, gentlemen, all of you, let's open with a few words. I believe Aaron and Jacob, perhaps you'd like to say something to accompany what Prof. Ko has already shared with us, and then I'll roll with questions after that. Jacob, would you like to start?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Professor Ko. The world is in quite a dangerous place. But given the nature of our profession, can you bring your mic closer? Yeah, thanks, sorry. Yes, but yeah, the world is in a dangerous place. But given the nature of our industry, to borrow a line from Game of Thrones, we have to see chaos as a ladder. So whatever is happening in the world right now, do give us lots of opportunities to be the fixers of that problem or offer alternatives. Whenever there's conflict, increasingly PR's role, we can either choose to be amplify the issue or find solutions to the issue. Tone down the aggressiveness on both sides. So if you choose in that framework and you make the right choices, I think as an industry as a whole, we have a positive role to play.
Thank you, Jacob. Arun, would you like to complement that?
Thank you, Kathy. I think in the interest of full disclosure, I should say a couple of things. I asked George May, why are you asking me? I'm a has-been. And she said, well, this is to show the progress of PR since I left the profession. So this is the new PR, I'm the old PR. But I think the fact that we have an 80-plus man who is going on 29 is sitting here and talking about diplomacy. You are the oldest serving diplomat, right? And to me, of course,
only in chronological age.
That's right. And that's what I'm going to talk about. I think even though, he often refers to me as a guru, this is his way of saboing me. He is the guru for all of us. And when I used to teach strategic public relations, in my first lecture, I used to start off with a quote from Prof. Ko. In fact, this was the answer to the question that he gave. What are the cardinal principles of diplomacy? And I used the same framework for teaching strategic public relations, and he touched on a couple of points earlier. So to me, whether it is a volatile world or a peaceful world, fundamentals still matter. 101 still matters. You've got to get the fundamentals right. Second, you have to prepare for crisis, volatility, when there is peacetime. You prepare for war when there is peace, and not when the war is upon us. And very often in crisis communication, and I have had to deal with quite a few when I was in this profession, many managements call the PR people at the time of the crisis. We are in this S-hole, so can you sort it out? We can't do that. But I was very fortunate that I worked for Mobil Corporation, which has actually written a book on crisis communication, and they practice, especially in the refinery in Singapore, one little spark can set the whole place ablaze. So we have annual exercise on how to deal with a major crisis in the refinery. So I learned a great deal about preparing for crisis, preparing for uncertainty, precisely when everything is calm, everything is safe. The final point I want to make is about technology. I find that, when I started in this profession in the early 1980, we didn't have computers. We certainly didn't have the mobile phone. And I think now the famous Marshall McLuhan's dictum, medium is the message, is truer today than it was yesterday. This is unprecedented in human history. This kind of ICTs, information communication technologies. And I think we are still grappling with it because these technologies are changing very rapidly. So for PR people, in fact, just this morning we were talking about press release with Selvi, who is from IBM. I used to spend a lot of time crafting press releases. Media relations was a big deal. Today, you own the media. You own. You don't need Straits Times. You don't need MediaCorp. So we need to understand how to use this technology, which of course has its own opportunities as well as problems. So I would like to urge everyone to think about how to harness the power of technology for the benefit of your management or your purpose. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Arun. Now, as I look out to all of you, I want to remind you that there are the 2 microphones for approaching with your questions. We want to hear the questions from the floor. You don't need to wait until I ask. If I see someone walking toward a microphone, I will include you soon. And now just touching back on what we've heard so far, we've talked about debate. We've talked about crisis, preparedness, technology. All of those are issues that you'll all have views on. So please start thinking of what you want to hear from this esteemed group. And perhaps, Jacob, I could throw one out to you based on what you both just said. A question. Are PR people leaders, practitioners, or something else? What are we? Are public relations professionals leaders or something else? What are we? Are we leaders? Prof. Ko seems to be cogitating on that too, so I'm looking forward to your thoughts after Jacob.
In my experience, PR people are advisors. Often this is something which my wife tells me, is that because we do handle and work with a lot of crisis, so at any given point of time, I'm carrying 5-6 people's problems as my own. But the advantage is they're not my problem, but I'm giving advice. And we have to look at each scenario as in what is the best outcome for our client, just like what a lawyer would do. Fortunately, we don't have to go to law school and join the bar and all these things, so we can be a little more flexible in that way. So I think our primary role is as advisors to make sure we get the best outcome. And to agree with something that Arun said, historically PR meant press releases, meant media relations. It is just a very tiny component of what we do right now. Just as Professor Ko explained about diplomacy, there are various aspects, and sometimes the PR person is a diplomat of that CEO or that company, where we have to go and deliver a message, gather intelligence, gather information, package information, both internally and externally. And when people ask me about what makes a PR person, I tell them a PR person is the right combination of an accountant, a lawyer, and a flight steward. Because you need to be an accountant first, because you need to understand the economics of what your actions are benefiting your business and your client's business. Secondly, you need to be a lawyer because you need to be good in constructing arguments. You need to be crisp in your language, you cut out the fluff, you need to be convincing, persuasive, all these things, and you have to think like a lawyer on that front. And I say flight steward because yes, you are presentable in the face of the organization, all these things, but you need to know all the safety procedures when things go bad or there's turbulence. You need to know how the life jackets work. There will be people on this plane who are not paying attention to the safety video. All this will be going, but you have to be graceful and calm and make sure everybody gets out alive. So you need to be a combination of all these three things. And as a PR person working with clients and others, you need to always carry that inside you.
Prof. Ko, I know you've had many PR advisors. Hello, Ken.
It's not on.
Hold on a second.
The microphone's not on. Still
Why
not
don't we
on.
give,
Yeah.
Hi.
there we go. Here comes one. But Prof. Ko, I'm still going to ask you later whether we are diplomats because Jacob dared to use the D word here a minute ago. Ken.
So, good. Now I'm getting feedback. Good to see you all up on stage, and I know I had to try and resist asking a question so early on, being another old fellow like Arun. But Tommy, I just caught the end of your talk earlier. I arrived a little late. I'm a bit slower on my feet than I used to be. But I have a question because both of you, I think all of you have referred to media, and we've obviously, over the years, seen many changes in the media scene. And I happen to be one person who's been involved in or with media for 60 plus years. So I think I can see the changes and I can reflect on them myself. But I see also still an important role for mainstream media, whether that's the Straits Times or CNA or international magazines and television and newspapers. And Tommy, in particular, you make good use of the media still. I regularly read your commentaries in the Straits Times and hear you on Facebook and other places. So I really would like to know from all four of you, because Kathy, you've been in this game for some time, how you see the role of mainstream media and therefore the role of PR people in making good use of mainstream media in light of, if you like, the flood of social media. And I know we have ways of dealing with media, social media as well, but I still see personally an important role for mainstream media. So I'd welcome your comments and your recommendations on how we should be dealing with mainstream media.
Ken, very good to see you. And thank you for your good question. It's a very good question. How have the changes in the media industry affected our work, whether you're a PR practitioner or a diplomat? It's made the work of a diplomat much more complicated. In the old days, we only had to deal with the mainstream media, But now that's not good enough. You also have to deal with the new media and even the social media. And the other thing is that it has truncated time. In the old days, you could take a few days to think about what kind of a response are we going to give to an incident. But in today's world, it's instantaneous. The whole world is following the event, and people want an immediate comment from you. So it truncates time. You have to be really on your feet, think clearly, think how to respond to a development event. So it's made our work much more challenging, that we have to be in mainstream media, new media, and selectively on social media. We have to be quick in our response. So this is the challenging world we now live in.
Could I want to go back to your earlier question because I think it was prompted by our previous discussion, are we professionals, right? And in fact, my title when I joined Mobile was Public Affairs Advisor. the American companies were the first, to my knowledge, used that term as advisor, because that's spot on. That's what we are, or we were, and whether the management takes your advice or not is another matter. But I want to bring this up because most of you are PR professionals. And when IPRS started, we actually tried to get accreditation for PR professionals. And we were up against, and Bhavani is here, who was a great advocate of this and was instrumental in setting up the accreditation term. And several of my younger colleagues are here, Albert and so on. Because people asked, what's your qualification? Anybody can become a PR person, and that's still the case today. Anyone can become a PR person, and I suppose in a way, anyone can be appointed as a diplomat, right? There's no diplomacy law degree or something you need to do. But are we professionals? And I think that is a valid question. And that depends on what kind of advice we give, how much of a grasp of the nettle you have. And in my time, and I just succeeded the time when only pretty girls were allowed PR and they were handing out pens at the signing ceremonies. But that changed, and it has changed dramatically. So I would argue that in order to be taken seriously by the top management, if you're sitting at the high table, which I was actually forced to sit in Mobile because that was their conception of PR. You sit there, But to be taken seriously at that table, you really have to earn that position. And I think this is where PR, if you want to be called a professional, whether it is duly acknowledged like the law professional, medical professional, accounting professional, we can actually demonstrate our professionalism by the grasp of the nettle, I think, yeah.
I don't understand why you hesitate to call yourself a profession.
No,
no,
officially, even the government doesn't recognize.
You clearly are a profession. In the same way, I'm a lawyer, and law is a profession. Diplomacy is a profession. I have no problem accepting that PR practitioners belong to a profession.
Thank you.
I wish everybody were like you, including the government.
Aaron, you've said this in other debates before. One of the marks of a professional is whose ear you get. Whose ear? Who's really listening to you? Who respects what you have to say? Are we reporting to the right level inside the organization, and have we earned that place? I want to switch it a little bit now to the word scrutiny. So Prof. Ko is just talking about the immediacy of social media, how much more complex it is, how agile you have to be. But what about this whole issue of being under scrutiny? We all have examples of it now where our behavior is picked apart on a whole new level. So we have celebrities who can lose $1 billion sponsorship for saying inappropriate things. We have CEOs who can lay off half the workforce on a given day. What kind of challenges is this posing for the advisor? And I'd love to hear any of your thoughts on that, or also from the floor.
Just to clarify, are you asking the three of us to pretend that we are PR advisors to Elon Musk?
Absolutely.
I would resign.
You would?
I wouldn't want to work for such a horrible man. No, I want to share with you why I think Elon Musk is a horrible man. A few years ago, some of you may remember, a group of kids from a football team in northern Thailand was stuck inside a cave. And because of heavy rainfall, the cave became flooded. And the whole world was quite seized by this, And two British cave divers, I didn't know there were such people, but the cave divers came to the rescue. And because the cave was flooded, they had to think of what can we create for the boys to be attached to take them out of the cave. And Elon Musk, probably his staff, created some contraption which he offered to them. They tested it and it didn't work, so they told him that thank you, but it didn't work. Instead of accepting it gracefully, he reacted by denouncing the two British cave divers and called them pedophiles. Now, what kind of a man would behave like that? Right? I mean, to me, this shows the man cannot accept that what he created was not appropriate for use, and instead of being gracious, he reacted by defaming these two cave divers. So I will never work for such a man. So.
Can I just add here?
Would you work for such a man?
I'm just going to answer that question. I'll just let you. 5 years ago, Elon Musk fired his entire PR team.
Really?
And he said that PR is overrated. I don't know PR. Nobody shed a tear for those PR employees. And will we ever work for Elon Musk? No. Because if that is his attitude towards PR and PR people, you don't want to work for him. Secondly, let's say Elon Musk realizes all the horrible things he's done. He's on his knees and he's saying, you know what, guys, just help me out. I made a mistake. We'll consider helping him. If he atones and he says that, because we don't want to cancel anybody. So if he says he's made his mistakes, he wants to do this thing. I mean, there's a famous quote by Saint, I think it's time to dance. No, there's a famous quote by Saint Augustine. Every saint has a past, every sinner has a future. So it's a question of how we find that, does he want to change? Does he want to be a force for good? He has qualities that can make a word good, but as things stand right now, we don't want to. I'll just take a minute to just tie up the question and what Arun said as well, and what Professor said about the media.
Maybe
Elon Musk has infiltrated the system.
I think it's telling us our time is up, I think.
Okay, I'll just make it really quick because I think it's important. When people talk about media, they look at the biggest change as being technology. Yeah. But I think what a lot of people are not looking at is the economics. The economics. When I used to be a journalist, 20 years ago, as a rookie journalist, our publication was like 300 pages thick every month. We got fat, greedy, and lazy because ads would come in. There's no accountability. We could go out for long lunches. There was, in fact, a column I used to write, out to lunch with Jacob, once a month and all these things. But as technology changed, the economics of it changed. And why the economics changing is important is because our entire PR industry, for a huge segment, was focused on media relations. And we were modeled like the judicial system, where we are lawyers and the journalists were the courts. So we have different points of view. You make it clear to the journalist, this is why your understanding is wrong, this is what it should be, don't believe what this guy is saying, here's the evidence, all these things. And you would trust this media person to take a wise decision. If he does the good stories, he gets credibility and gravitas and all these things from his readership, from all the other stakeholders. But what has happened now is that this journalist needs to be paid. And his owners are telling him, hey, we need eyeballs. We need clickbaits. We need this. So I was shocked, like even today in, publications I respect a lot, they will publish a story and add in italics at the bottom. We will update the story when we hear from this party. And like, why would you publish a story? Say they didn't respond, but they didn't even wait for them or give them enough time to respond. I think we are going through a phase where the model of the media is changing. There are publications now, I don't want to plug them because they're friends, but they do like one story a day or one story a week, but it's long form, well researched. And and you're willing to pay for them. So I think what's going to change is media platforms are going to be reader supported, not reader supported in the sense of clicking and liking, but economically supported, where I will pay $3 to $10 a month if I find the information they're giving useful. I'll end with that here. I have a lot to say in this. Yeah.
Changing media is something we could spend the whole day on. And of course, it is the background against which all of this practice is pursued. Gentlemen, thank you all for all you've shared. I would love to hear a few more of those controversial comments we were starting to get. Oops. Okay, a final question from Bhavani, but we are running out of time.
Okay.
Bhavani.
So sorry, Kathy. Since Prof. Ko is here, I think we should ask him a question about his experience in using social media. I follow your Facebook posts, and I find you such a prolific writer every day, and you write some interesting stuff. I really think it'd be useful if you can share with all of us how you got onto Facebook, and why did you use that as a tool to engage the audience out there, anyone out there. I really like to understand your experience and whether you feel it's great being on social media.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhavani. Good friend. I think it's important for all of us, whether we are young or old, to embrace change and to embrace technology. And I'm just trying to, I'm 85, and I'm trying to be young like you and be part of the digital world. I know that the world has changed so radically that it's not enough for me to write my monthly column for the Straits Times. I need to reach out to another constituency, especially young people, who look to social media for information, for opinion. So it's my attempt to engage this other constituency and to keep up with my children and grandchildren's generation.
Which he is doing extremely well. May I ask you all to join me in thanking this fantastic panel?
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Professor Ko. Thank you, Arun, and thank you, Jacob. I don't know about you guys, but my takeaway is I can go home and tell my parents that Professor Tommy Ko says I am a professional.